All right, ladies and gentlemen, now introducing the star of the very first psychic documentary, Psychic, A Gift of Grace, and the host of Sacred Grace, the one, the only, Gracie Ray.
Hello, my beauties, and welcome to the second edition of Sacred Grace. This is Psychic Grace, and I am so excited to be here with you tonight. By the way, if you are listening live, please join us in the chat room. Go to facebook.com/groups/12radio. You will see our banner and you can comment, you can ask questions, and I am so excited to answer the questions for you, especially because tonight, drum roll, we have a very special guest. But before I introduce this guest, I actually looked up a quote that was inspired by him because he is just everything. You all know why, and I think you all know who my guest is, but I'm about to introduce him. The quote is, "Until you make peace with who you are, you'll never be content with what you have." And that's by Doris Mortman. And the reason that I chose this quote is because the person that I'm bringing on is someone who, to me, very much represents someone who is extremely fulfilled. When you hear this person and when you see what this person has achieved, it's remarkable. This is a master manifester. I promised you my show was going to be about manifestation, so I am bringing on this show a master manifester. My special guest for tonight is not only a master astrologer, but he is the founder of 1-2 Listen, 1-2 Radio, every sect that has to do with 1-2. I mean, literally, if you write down 1-2, you might as well go to him because he probably started it. This is an amazing, amazing man. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce the founder of our whole company, Mark Husson.
Oh, that is so sweet. I'm blushing, and I'm waiting for that guy to come on, who you just introduced. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you for being on my show.
So exciting to be with you here. I'm really honored. It's so kind, and that was such a sweet introduction, and it's very undeserved, but I appreciate it. It's so nice. Thank you.
Thank you. We are so excited to have you here because, my whole show is about manifestation. And when I think of manifestation, one of the best tools is really, like this woman said, Doris, making peace with yourself and really projecting outwardly into your life that contentment. But you have to know yourself if you're able to be content with yourself. So I listen to your show and I've learned so much from you about how to live your best life. But before we get into it, I'm really curious, Mark, off the bat, how did you get into astrology? How did that happen? Does it run in the family?
Yeah, I had my mom was not opposed to it at all. But she would use it as a weapon. She was a Virgo like you. And she said to me, as we were growing up, she said, cancers will always attract the best mates. And it never occurred to me she was talking about herself because she married a Cancer. So she was saying, cancers always get the best. And so my whole life I'm thinking, I'm a Cancer, I'm going to get the best. I thought it was a compliment until I learned astrology. Then I But yeah, no. And when I got into my master's program, I wanted to really dive into Linda Goodman's Love Signs book. And because in the preface of that book is some magic. I mean, she really gets deep. And she talks about this quest for her daughter and this beautiful sort of parallel to Peter Pan. And as I started reading it, it was like, okay, this could really help me in my course. And so I did become the guy that I became really good at assessing people, getting their birth information and not telling them what I was doing. But mostly it was being a tormented 20-something who was really needing to come to terms with his life. And astrology suddenly gave me permission to say, you don't have to be like them. You can be different because look at this. And it was a revelation. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And then I never gave it up. It's just like I ate up everything I could do with astrology. And I'm grateful for it. I'm so grateful that you like it. I love when people get excited about astrology because you see the magic in it.
Right. And, I totally understand, the whole 20s dilemma, the existential crisis that happens during that time. But I'm seeing that in people now. And so more and more, my favorite readings are to do the, email based sessions because I have the time to go and do their birth chart reading. And that's where I find the gold because people will come to me and say, I want to manifest this. Well, why? Why are these things important to you? And how do you know that these things will truly fulfill you? So for me as well, Mark, astrology was really helping me to find and continuing to help me to find where I will be the most fulfilled. So is that what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, it's so good. I like how you put it into words like that. Yeah, in a way, I think the big thing is underneath it all, I think in our quest for whatever it is we're really looking for, I really think, and I know this is probably cliche, but we are in a way, I think, ultimately looking for the relationship, the ultimate relationship that makes us feel safe. And ultimately, I think it's going to be the one that we develop with ourselves, like that ability to look within. And I was thinking a lot about it today because I knew I was going to be on your show, and you're writing and you're in the Power BI. I like people to know that because you're writing. You may topically, it might look like you're excited and but you're bringing in deep points, and I think it's just really extraordinary how you bring both worlds together. But I was thinking today before the show, what religion has done in so many ways do you notice that a lot of the religions are the quest for God, that patriarchal sort of sense? And I'm thinking like it's one of the reasons, because it's Mother's Day coming up, I was thinking this, that moms never abandon us typically. I mean, a mother's bond with the child kind of energy. And so in a way, even though I know many of us were abandoned by our mothers, the kind of thing, but religion was this quest for that relationship that seemed is so removed from us, that father. And so I thought in my quest growing up, one of the things that was my big revelation was if I do nothing else, can I commit to stop this self-abuse? Can I commit to loving whatever happens in my life without condemnation? And it was a revelation. I mean, it really was. And I think that's what, and the very last thing that happened before a big breakthrough for me was the revelation that there was a part of me that was unmovable, that was so connected and so permanent and so determined in its loving ability to bring me some sort of hope, that finding that was going to be the key. And I think that's what we all want ultimately. I think we want to know that it's A, going to be okay, B, that I don't have to do much to have that. Like we can all be worthy of, like we do believe it's all about this quest and this thing sometimes, whether there's all this work we have to do or the mountaintop we have to climb or the state of mental stillness we have to achieve, when it's available to all of us regardless. And I think if we can get people there, and I think you try to do that in your work, I try to do it in my work, to get people to realize it's okay. You can be okay now. You can have that now. And, that should be the goal. I mean, it would be we can have shoulds. The big should be, I think, to find that peace with ourselves somehow. And our job is, I think, to help each other get there, however we can. That's a big generalization, but it just seems so vital. And I don't care, that's why religion to me is like, whatever, it can, if it helps people get there, great. But if it helps people feel less than, any study that helps somebody feel less than, any study that somebody feels special over somebody else, I just feel sad about. So I tend to reject. Right. So, yeah. Well,
I completely understand that. So it sounds like you found your connection to okay, so the crazy thing about this is I'm actually writing a book right now. I don't consider myself a writer, and the moment that you approved of my weekly Grace articles, I nearly passed out. I was like, oh my gosh, I can die now. Okay. But no, not in a bad way, but it's writing is so, it's just interesting. So I really, one of the areas where I'm so inspired by you are our north nodes and the
Yeah,
importance of them.
right.
And for me, learning about my north node really gave me a sense of direction in my life and purpose. And so I'm writing because I know, being a south node, the showman Leo, being a north node, an Aquarius, I know that like I've already been the star. I don't need to be the star forever, forever, or forever. I'm more dedicated to causes and things that are going to help everyone. So I'm writing this book on trauma, and I just before our show stopped this chapter on religious abuse. And so it's just really weird that you're bringing this up, because I have this anonymous letter from this woman, and she talked about how she was, raised in a denomination, and she was basically, raped and then blamed, shamed and blamed for the incident, when there was no sexual education, and there was no information available to her. No one listened to her. No one understood that she was abused. But what was really remarkable is years later, she became an advocate for sexual abuse, and she was fighting and for these women and these men who had been abused, and she just felt this, and she called it like a stream that was inside of her, that was just, just loved these people so much, and she felt so passionate about helping them. And she said that she realized in that moment that her idea of what God was completely false. It was abusive. It was hurtful. And, people might have the best of intentions. And I know people who come from religious denominations that have that connection to that stream inside. Their idea of a God or spirit is so loving and, full of integrity. But in that experience that she had, it wasn't. But, the experience of being an advocate for other people who had suffered, she said for the first time she felt like she had made contact with this thing that some people had called God in the past. And I thought that was so beautiful, to see it from that perspective.
Boy, that's definitely turning a hurt into a place of love, and that to me is that's just a lovely miracle, because if we could do that with everything, if we could take our hurts and turn them into a place where we can love somebody else because we've been there. And I think that's, of course, about empathy, right? Which I think is a big topic these days, about how our leaders aren't demonstrating a lot of that. And it's to be able to do that, and to do it in the midst of not blaming God, not blaming this idea of God, not blaming anybody, recognizing this was done to me. What do I do? How can what can I do to flip this? And she made a choice to help other people never have to deal with it, or to get through the other side of it, which is beautiful. And I think that's really lovely. It's interesting how much guilt the religions, we're born guilty according to religion. That's what a baptism is about. We're born sinful. And so we have to, and so this rest of our life, we grow up proving to this idea that we're worth something. And it's remarkable to me how many people bought into it. And it's remarkable also that it's still going on. That, I loved Woody Allen when he told his sister in one of his movies, she goes, "Give me a rabbi." And he goes, "We don't have a rabbi, we have a priest." She said, "I need a rabbi." And he goes, "Look, if 20 seconds before you took your first breath, our parents converted to Catholicism, you'd be begging for a priest. Just take the priest." And so it's like just really looking at our programming and what we're taught, and is there a way for us to bring this fountain out? And the woman who wrote you sounds like she did that, and it is beautiful. And notice that you recognize it and you become the mouthpiece for it. So that's a very amazing Virgo thing, and it ties back to your North Node. Did you say North Node in Leo for you, Grace?
I said North Node in Aquarius.
Oh, it's in Aquarius. So the South Node was Leo. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Brilliant. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, maybe you want to talk a little bit about, for people that don't know about the North Node and what all of that is.
Yes, I'd love it. I love the nodes like you. I love that. you were born with this axis. It's not really a planet, but it's where the moon crosses the path of the Earth, and it does it in two places. And wherever it does it in one, the opposite point is always the other. So we've called the one that looks like a horseshoe an upside down U. That's the south node, and that is an indication, and we'll put it in these words, of strengths that you came in with. And the reason we say that is because there's an idea that if you came in with those strengths, you're going to really need them. And so, so if you came in with Leo, then there's the idea behind all of the Leo things. It would be the concept of the possibility of you needed to. Leo comes with the mythology of a father figure that's kind of elusive or absent. And so we first have that. Then we have the idea that Leo needs to be somehow the bright light for the family or for whatever, like to be the shining star, right? That's the part we go, oh, it's all about your ego. No, it's about you had to sing and dance to keep everybody else elevated. So it tells us right away the type likely of situation where that was really required. And as you mature, you realize that every time we lean into our south node, which we can do, it doesn't fulfill us as much. And that there's got to be a way that we can have that, but really we got to look ahead to this north node, which is the thing we're aiming toward. For you, Aquarius, you think about the higher ideals of Aquarius. It's the see humanity, not just humans. It's to see the group, not just the individual. It's to see the ideal, not just the statement. And so you're bringing this wisdom with you, and you're trying to get it into this collective, to the humanity, to the group. And that's sort of so you're seeing yourself as part of this is my species, not just me separate, and I got to keep mom good and everyone else feeling like they're okay. I can now take this and do it to humanity. Now in doing that, it feeds the south node all over again, because in doing the north node, you suddenly get to say, you brought this message, but it comes back to you then as an individual made all these people happy, or you made all these people look at it differently. So you're feeding the south node automatically when you do the north node, but that transition is a little scary. We don't think we're going to
totally
think we have to give it up, and we don't, but that's, you're doing a great job of demonstrating it. And everybody has one of those. So everybody can look and see what they're striving for. And when life starts hitting us a little hard and it doesn't feel like it's working, oftentimes it's because we went back to what was comfortable, our south node. And we soon find out with that, it's just like going home when you're an adult, like looking for that safety and it isn't there. It's like the south node does that to us sometimes when we lean too heavily into what once was.
Right.
Instead of letting it come on its own growth as we go toward our future. So very powerful aspects in the chart. I think it's wonderful that you look at them, and everybody has a secret into what they do when they get lost, what they could do.
Right. And I think it's so interesting. Well, first of all, I would love to know what your north node and your south node are, because that tells me so much. I would love to know.
Sure. I'm south node in Gemini.
Awesome.
And north node in Sag. So
Awesome.
I got to get to that inspired place. Now, if you go to the rulers, like in your chart, look for Uranus and see what sign it's in. Twice the information. Because it's the ruler of Aquarius. So we want to find out where that Aquarian energy is manifesting in your chart. I would suspect that yours is probably in Libra or Scorpio. No?
I believe my Uranus is in Capricorn.
Oh, did it? Oh, okay. I forget how young you are.
You know what I think, though? I think I know what you mean, because when I'm around people, maybe it is that Aquarian thing inside of me, but I just like bubble up when I'm around people, and I can't help myself. It's like falling in love. Like I really just like, I get so excited around people, and I just enjoy the experience of being around people. But if you lived with me, like my brother, he calls me the pit bull. Like, God forbid anyone try to stand in her way when she's trying to do something, because she will get it done. Like I am so just, that goat in the dead of winter that's just like, no, we're going to do this. This is going to happen, so So I don't think it comes out in my social aspect, but it's there. It's there on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And it tells us what you're going to draw on. So you're going to bring a message to humanity. In what format are we going to bring it in? Through Capricorn, through hard work, through
Right.
seeing the obstacles and overcoming them. I mean, it's very pragmatic, but it's also it's not easy because it's your north node, but you're adding this tons of strength to it. If you look at the south node, it's Leo and the sun in Virgo. So instead of you being this shining star, there was humility, there was shame, there was criticism, there was guilt. And so you had to overcome that with the south node as well. So it adds such a beautiful color to what we're trying to achieve by going to the ruler and seeing what it's in.
It's so crazy that you say that because Leo is the performer, and I just said this to Erin. So Erin and I, Erin is a psychic advisor. I think she's listening right now. I was listening to her show earlier, but we had our show together, and now we've we're on two separate coasts, but we message each other every day. And I just had this realization the other day that, the community that I was raised in was very like 1 foot in this world, 1 foot in America, because our community was so deeply and like its own thing. I mean, it's so crazy. It was like living in 1600s Mexico. Like literally that's what my childhood was like. I raised on a ranch, it's crazy. But my family, but it was so close because it was on the outskirts of LA. And so for me growing up and also going into like college and education, I always saw Hollywood as, something very appealing to me. And I was very encouraged to go in that direction of just shining, just being a shining star. And I said to Erin, in a way, Hollywood saved me. It actually, saved me from, from going down a path that wouldn't have been authentic to me, getting married, going in that direction. And I mean, even me moving to the East Coast, it was because of the production company. And, so I realized that, but then I realized that it was to bring me out of that circumstance. But I don't have to be a slave to it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's the perfect hero's journey for the nodes. The South Node, as comforting as it was for you and as many skills as it brought you and as much as you were in love with it, you had to go seek the higher ideal. And that's what you did. Uranus and Capricorn. So you used that sort of goat survival anywhere and made it happen.
And I know we're totally geeking out on astrology, but for anyone that's listening, one of the things that I found, and maybe Mark will back me up with this, is, I have this tattoo of a jaguar on my foot. It's like massive and unexpected of me. So it's like very Aquarius that I would even get a tattoo. Yeah. But, but at the same time, I have fought, oh, you're doing something mean to someone. I'm going to burn you down with fire. Like that used to be my go-to. And what Aquarius has taught me is that I can actually work on lifting people up. It takes less effort for me to lift people up or to be vulnerable and to, to speak to a group of people than to fight. And so that's been, something that I think Aquarius has taught me, and where I've matured. It's like I don't have to fight so hard. I could actually just give space to a certain community or a certain ideal, and that helps them to really, be seen.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. That's you just described it perfectly. And it's helpful to have a way to put what you're doing in a language, and I think that's what astrology clearly gave you and me, and what it can give people is a language to put this, what is going on, and we have this little box we can put it in, and though many people don't like the idea of the box, it's sort of nice to know that there's that I'm doing this part of my chart to help me survive through this, and that's what we do. And I think that's great. So you definitely nailed the nodal axis. That's pretty hard to do in your
because of you. Because of you, because I listen to your show and because I love you and you inspire me. But seriously, enough about me because I'm so interested in you. Please tell me, like, how did you go, though, from being this astrologer and having this wisdom and having this connection to spirit and then saying, you know what, I think I'm going to start a whole community, because that's a whole other thing.
Oh gosh, I don't even know that I thought of it that way. It was really just survival. After a while, I think we were facing some really hard times with our brick and mortar store. So and I was really relying on some personal prayer to sort of, I didn't know what to do. And at one point, I really did have an insight that if there is a truth spiritually, my knowing about it isn't going to change it one way or the other. So I got to get off the bandwagon and do some action. And the first thing we needed to do was get the readers who relied on us so heavily for their income a place to be. And that's how Once You Listen got started. But it was me calling in a million favors that I'm still paying back. I had to call Tom, the guy that still runs it for us now, that built the website and hosts it, and beg him to please consider that I have no money and I need to build a website to help these people out, and I will take care of him once we get it going. And he did it. I called Hay House and said, you need to get me a book. I don't care what we need to do, but you got to get over your astrology shit and just let me have a book. Because he had let me do a calendar, and I just went, why would I ever do that? I called the president of Hay House and said, you got to do this because I'm on a cliff. I'm ready to jump. I don't know what to do. And he goes, hey, I'll give you one. It's like reluctantly. I didn't take any. There was no advance, no money advance. He goes, I'm not going to give you an advance. And I'm like, okay, can you give me something to promote it with? And he goes, yeah, you can have a radio show. And I took it and ran. And so for 7 years, I did Hay House Radio on the condition that I could advertise Once You Listen. And prior to that, though, we did have a store that was the community, and we did believe that there was people needed a refuge, and that was the number one goal. When if you meet John, the first thing people know when they meet John is that this is somebody who I am completely safe around because there's not a single judgment that emanates from his brain. I mean, I'm filled with them, so they have to buy all that. But so we had this community that was feeling safe, that we weren't pretentious. We knew that spirituality would belong to the individual, not to the group, and that everybody had their right to believe what they wanted. And so we protected that. And we were one of the few stores in Denver, personal opinion, that really did try to protect that. I mean, we sold cigarettes in the day. I mean, we were like, whatever your thing is, whatever your path is, we're here to not make you feel guilty about it.
Right.
And so it just sort of happened. And then when we got online, it just exploded. And I had that 20 years of experience of raising psychics, right? So, and I knew how to protect, what kind of protection they needed in terms of like from public disapproval, from religious disapproval. And this is it today. And I'm like, it's amazing because you don't aim for that. I would have never aimed for this. I still stutter when somebody goes, in fact, I went to the doctor for my first prostate exam. I'm proud of that. That's why I'm saying it out loud. I was like, I'm never going to let that happen. I'm like, I'm going to let that happen. Because I was like, this is me. I can't live in shame over it. I wanted this to happen. I want to know. So anyway, he said, what do you do? And I was like, what the fuck do I do? Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, what do I do? And I was really out loud. Like, I have no idea how to put it into words. And so I said, it's a lot of stuff. It's therapy, and it's, I do websites. And by the time I was done stuttering through it, he didn't care. I mean, he was interested in any of that because, I wasn't being coherent because I don't know what to say about it. So, yeah, I wouldn't put that as a goal that I tried to build a community. And so when you put it like that, it's a compliment because it's not anything that I see. So it's very nice that it can be structured that way. But that wasn't the intent. The intent was to get these people a place to live and to have some food and shelter and keep them safe. And it blew. So it was great. But I'm grateful. And I'm grateful because you came along. Look, you were the youngest psychic you still are, right? Or maybe we have now. But at that time, it was sort of like the crown you wore and you were doing what you do now. Articulate, you were free, you were saying the things that young people didn't seem to say at the time. And then when you look at the group, like Erin and you at a show, she speaks that way. We have a foundation that we feel safe in. And I'm more than anything proud of that community that got built, because you guys do something pretty remarkable that I don't do. I mean, I really don't do it. I don't know that I could sit at home and take calls all day. It's amazing to me what you guys do. So anyway, long answers. Yeah, go ahead.
I just find it so interesting that we started this talk about astrology and how, people didn't have a safe place to connect with spirit. And then you created that safe place for people to connect with spirit. I just find that so fascinating.
Well, you're saying that in a nice way, but it wasn't. Maybe they don't connect with spirit, right? Maybe they're people who are finding something else, but it's nice that they have a chance to do whatever it is. I mean, I do think. I mean, we do try to keep it all neutral.
Or themselves, maybe not spirit, but maybe themselves connect with their life path.
Spirit, somebody connects to God, somebody might connect to, the Hindu goddesses and gods. It's like, the point is, it wasn't set up so that it's just set up so they can tap into whatever. And I'm happy for that. I mean, I just think some of us are pretty agnostic. I don't know how I would answer a religious question. My grandfather was a priest, right? I was around it. But
really? I didn't know that.
He was a priest for 40 years of our Orthodox church, like a Greek Orthodox church, but ours.
Okay. I was like, so how did he birth you? That's real interesting. Okay.
The Greek Orthodox Church religions aren't strict. They celebrate. It was not weirdly strict. There was no guilt placed.
Right.
Really was about sort of like a loving ideal. But the idea was, I just saw how people, because of how I was growing up, and I was isolated, I was gay, I was scared, and I was being condemned, and it was like, you have to come up with an alternative. You can't, that's the sad thing, is like, there's not a lot of incentive for people to give up bad religion unless they're put in a situation that sort of says, I can't fit in that. And so you have to fight for it. It's depending on who we are. And so it's nice when people who have never had that kind of trauma, who understand that trauma. That's amazing. It's harder to be empathetic when you've never been there. And so with people who are empathetic and didn't suffer, that's pretty remarkable. So I love that. And so that's how it happened. And I just became the idea that the truth in God is personal for me. And the way I know it's true is because I have no desire to change anybody's opinion of what they believe. I don't care. I'm really happy with the way, my personal foundation, and I can tell that I'm happy with it because I don't need to share it. I don't have to convince somebody else, so I feel okay about it. Not that I think that's what everybody's doing, but we've had a lot of people knock on my door this week, a lot of people with Bibles in their hands, and I just can't. I mean, John runs upstairs because he knows I'm going to be a little rude. So he's very sweet. He invites them in, and of course I'm rolling my eyes like, oh, great. And so no, I'm not. I mean, whatever. I say hi and nice, and he listens to them. He talks to them, and I don't want to know, and I don't want to talk my own. So my version, right?
No, I totally get it, and it's
in Gemini. Do you see that?
I love it though, but you guys are just the cutest, the way that you are such opposites, but obviously have such a strong connection and such a strong love. I love that dynamic between the two of you. But what's so fascinating, hearing all of this about your story is that, the things that hurt us, I mean, I'm a Virgo, so I'm incredibly negative minded. Like, I'm always critical and looking for the problems so that I can solve them. But, these can be our greatest gifts, because what you've given people, whether you meant to or not, or is a place to safely, find their journey or find whatever that is. And I mean, what I'm hearing is that you didn't anticipate that journey, but boy, has it influenced so many people. And I can only imagine what that must have been like during that time or in your particular circumstance. And I always think of religion and spirituality as personal anyway, as individual,
Mm-hmm.
because, even myself, let's just say, like, I was raised Catholic, but let's just say I was a practicing Catholic, which I'm not a religious person at all. And I've expressed to, my family a frustration that I can't identify with anything. There's nothing where I'm like, oh, that perfectly is me. It's not. I have to have my own individual journey, but it's also, a responsibility for us, if we do identify with certain groups, to be willing to be truthful about, I heard a Native American say that, Jesus was your savior, but he wasn't our savior. The people that believed in him slaughtered us. And, it's like, oh man, that makes it really difficult for me to, to go
Right?
along with that. Mm-hmm.
That's
So,
good.
I think there's so many things rising to the surface right now. But what I love about your story is taking that, that pain and that feeling of being an outsider and being vulnerable enough to to turn it into a community and a place of safety for people. It's like, oh, this scary patriarchy, God that's very damning. And then yet you created such a safe space from that. So I love that you did that. That is manifestation 101.
Oh, that's very sweet. I wonder. That's amazing. I mean, it's so fun to have you put it in the context like that. But it is it's survival, right? You don't want people. I hated when I walk into a store and people felt superior, or they didn't. My question, they would roll their eyes because I'm seeking something, but they needed to feel that they know this stuff, and I'm, whatever, and very protective of their things. So I wanted people to have an experience when they came to our store that there was not that we were great. I mean, we were real. We were keeping it real too. I mean, I remember looking at people rolling my eyes like they didn't even say hi to me. John's like, they don't need to say hi to you. Fear looks like that's where I learned that fear looks like anger. And I used to think these people are so hostile. And he goes, they're not hostile. They're afraid. They're walking into a store. So we had to create a way for me to break the ice because I was very shy. I have Saturn in my first house. And we created tea. So I get to say, welcome. Can I get you a cup of tea? And we had this big dispenser, hot water. We had 30,000 teas.
Wow.
And it totally broke the ice. And that's how I got over that. That's the little learning steps that were like, this is, like, in other words, I was no angel, but I had an intent to heal that or to grow. And so it eventually took hold. I became a nicer clerk until near the end. It was like, okay, time to go. And so retail, I really will never miss it. But yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I ask you because you were talking about Uranus. What is that? Why am I laughing at that word? Uranus, okay? Because maybe I said Uranus. Okay, maybe that was the prostate exam, but no, Uranus. That was how we go about doing things, and I laugh at that because my Uranus is in Capricorn, and so I get bossy, and then I feel guilty for being bossy, and then I break down, and I'm like, I just want to help people. I'm not trying to be bossy. I'm just trying to get things done. I'm so sorry. And so, what is your Uranus? Is that showing up in that personality trait?
Yeah, it is actually. We don't really have access to Uranus until it touches a personal planet, right? So mine's my sun. So you have other things, I'm sure, that are going on in your chart that would qualify you for what the description you're making. One of them, Virgo for sure, is definitely one that does not. When Virgo gets to the point of complaint, they've overextended, and so I don't even think I know your moon, Gracie. Is it a Cancer moon, or do you have Cancer? Gemini moon and Cancer rising. Is that what it is?
Gemini moon, Leo rising.
There's the Leo rising. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Okay,
sure.
So then the mental part, the moon and the sun combined together, it makes it sound to me that you're seeing the way things need to be, and to get there is where it looks like you're being fanatical, but you're actually seeing the flaw and you want to fix it, and that's Virgo's gift. And so if Uranus is close to any of your planets, it's in Capricorn. If you have any other ones there, it's definitely, see, you have Uranus in Capricorn, Pluto's in Capricorn, Saturn's in Capricorn. We are heading toward one of the most ridiculously life-changing planetary events this year and next year. These
Tell me, please.
They're historic. I mean, Saturn and Pluto are coming together in Capricorn in January 12th, 2020. That's in 7 months. When they come together, when they come together, 7 years later, they oppose each other. 7 years later, after their last time they were together, 7 years later from that was 9/11. Not that catastrophic things have to happen, but these two planets are so big in our collective mind that to have them together and then to have Jupiter come and touch this point, because Jupiter's going to be meeting them. And then so many, so it happens in 2020, they're going to come together. Then Saturn's going to leave and go into Aquarius, and Jupiter's going to meet Saturn there. And that's the first time in 200 years those two planets met in the sign of air, because for hundreds of years they've always met in Earth. It's weird. Mm-hmm. And here they are for the first time going to break it and go into air. So that means our ideals change. We get to really bring this wisdom that we're fighting. Right now, all the Capricorn stuff, this Pluto Saturn coming together, our generation, is what we're seeing, what you're hearing the word constitutional crisis. If you watch the news at all, you're hearing constitutional crisis. That's exactly what's happening. And it is not a crisis. It's an evolution. It's a growth. It's a transformation. And it's huge. It's really big. These two haven't come together I have to get it. It was the last time they came together. Was like 1405. It's like, I mean, they never do. They come together, just not in Capricorn. So there's a lot more we'll explore on other shows and things, and I'm sure I'll talk about it. But this time right now, where people are really looking at the tipping point of their life, they're looking at purpose. Uranus and Aquarius, everyone in your age group is now questioning in a very big way how to bring this thing in them that they feel that they want to bring this lantern to the world, how they're going to do it. And if they don't see their lantern their way, they're going to start looking for it. And it's big. And so you must be feeling on some level this huge, bigger than you thing that's kind of pushing you forward. And I think we all are kind of feeling it. Really. We'll see it more and more as it comes forward. But that's a big event that's happening. The first one happens in 2020, January. That's just a few months away. And then we have the giant one, which is Jupiter and Saturn for the first time mutating out of Earth into air. And it stays there for 200 more years. So air is going to be a good thing. We're going to see some new ideas, some transformations, some play. So anyway, I hope I didn't hijack that too far into...
No, I love that. I love it because people are feeling really disenfranchised right now. Yeah. And so here I am, a manifestation coach, but ultimately I really want people to, what I say is achieving your goals isn't the hard part. The hard, it's not hard to, I want to go buy a dress, like finding the money to buy the dress and then walking to the store or driving and getting the dress. That's not difficult. What's difficult is really the process, the emotional process, the psychological process, and this, the spiritual, I guess, process of deciding what is it that I really want for myself? What is important to me? And that's why I love astrology, but it seems like people are in this revolutionary moment in their life and they're questioning everything, their purpose, their relationships. And, I'm hearing this time and time again, and I'm just grateful that they have places like One to Listen to go to get a little bit of direction.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love that you have all that in you and you're so young to have that. I mean, I hate to bring that up a lot, but I mean, to me, I'm also just getting some of that. I know you talked a little bit about The Secret when you write your articles. And I think one of the things that's very interesting is, and just to really emphasize how you're teaching manifestation, is that the ability to manifest or not manifest, sometimes and you mentioned this so clearly, sometimes we miss the thing that actually did come about. Like if we didn't get the pink car, because that's what we put on our board, but we did get this something else. And it's like the ability to see the something else as a true manifestation gift. Like we always get what we want, but we always get what we need. Sometimes it just comes in a different picture. But I do think, I don't know, I think that you're busting a lot of the rules around this. My complaint about The Secret was people who didn't manifest were seen as they're doing something wrong. And
totally.
Right. And if people got sick, they were doing something wrong. That's what they got. They were so angry they got sick. And so we a way to prevent empathy, which is the key to so much. Our way to prevent empathy, we come up with a reason. So I do love that you're busting that. And so to hear manifestation coach, I think, again, that's a pioneering thing. That's North Node in Aquarius. I'm sure people talk about it, and I'm sure there's other people maybe who call themselves that, but it's the first time. We usually hear life coach, but to hear manifestation coach, it's kind of a brilliant thing to be able to say, I'm going to help you get what you desire. And we'll have to really uncover that true desire, but we're going to get it. And it's great. So anyway, just kudos for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And you would think that people would, call and be like, oh, I want this like Mercedes and it's like, oh, I want, someone who doesn't like abuse me. Like I want a good, healthy relationship. I'm like, oh, wow. Crazy ambition here. That's the most devastating part is that people aren't asking for things that are crazy or, and I really like to bring it home because if it's worth fighting for, then it's worth fighting for. But if it's not, then who cares? Like go to the zoo if you want to see the elephant. You don't need an elephant. What the heck, And, so thank you.
That doesn't depend on it. You're right. That's so good.
But also last week I pointed out it was, a manifestation edition. And I did talk about the Secret Challenge, but, with the Secret, they tell us this is how you're supposed to think, feel, and where you're supposed to put your attention. And I also do a lot of trauma work. And what I see with trauma victims is they don't feel enabled or they don't feel justified in having their own feelings and emotions and thoughts and memories about life. So when I did that challenge, I was messed up after. Like I was truly messed up, and I had suppressed so much emotion and feelings and thoughts, and I felt really, it was like a moment of panic. So I said in good conscience, I cannot recommend that to anyone because this is not the way to do it. And someone commented, and Violet, I love her so much. She said that I was like a Wizard of Oz, like putting the house on the evil witch with The Secret. And so, because I don't mind exploring things, I will go into these things completely open-minded. But if you want to be happy, we can achieve that. If you want healthy relationships, we can absolutely achieve it. But what we really need to look at is what is stopping you from feeling deserving or understanding what a healthy relationship is.
Yeah, so, think they want a healthy relationship and it's not unhealthy or healthy. It's sometimes what they just want is to not feel lonely. And the solution, they think they know the solution to that because we were conditioned. It's always about another person. Sometimes it really is about finding that rock that doesn't move in them and having that relationship manifest. It's really interesting how the form does not ever get to define our essence. It never should. And what we have should never be allowed to define us. And because that way, if you've been abused, that doesn't get to define you either. The rule applies to everything. And so manifestation, the intent to be with somebody, to take a class that somebody's teaching on manifestation, that intent alone, it's changed everything, I'm sure, for them, just because it was like there's the desire in them that they recognize that they want something. And I love the whole concept. I did the same thing. I dropped my house on Solera, who wrote the 1111 book, the Wizard of Oz house. She said that if you see the numbers 1111, just like when Doreen Virtue was doing that whole thing with numbers in 444, so that everyone who didn't see them got to feel like crap, like they don't deserve it. And so anything that brought that kind of specialness, I wouldn't sell the book. I wouldn't have her in. It was like, I'm not promoting that because I have to defend it to the people who don't see 1111. So I got all the people that were seeing 123 or 3 they're saying, what about that? Let's look it up. Let's figure out.
Totally.
Right. So it's just singling. Go ahead.
And my brother saw me go through the process. I live with my brother, and he's also my production partner, and he is my constant, and what I love about him and what I love about you is that you are men who also are very balanced. You bring something different than what I'm used to experiencing from men. There's a gentleness and a kindness and a compassion, and there's just a similarity there in terms of the way that you love, and it's palpable. You can feel it. But when things go wrong, he becomes someone else. And so when I went through the secret challenge, he was like, "Oh, this is BS," and they have a built-in excuse that if it's not working, it's your fault, and the only person we're making rich is them. And then of course I go to Target today, and it's like the 20th anniversary of The Secret, and I was just like,
"Oh my God,
it's crazy," And so I think what I love about astrology is really understanding that these things that might even frighten me within myself are what I was made to be. This is me, this is truly me. And I think the more that I learn about astrology, the more that I learn about myself, and I give myself permission, just like with manifestation. And honestly, I use the birth charts as a premise for manifestation, because so many times people have goals, but they don't know how to be justified in those goals, and they don't know how to achieve them. Yeah. So I love it. It's like, it's such a miraculous thing. And one of the last questions that I have is, do you consider astrology, is it a spiritual practice, a scientific practice, a religion? How do you look at that?
It's a tool for me that, I think all tools should be used for me to remind me of a way, like the goal always in your manifestation class, in astrology, in religion, in meditation, the goal, in my opinion, should be a way to bring us to a place of peace just in that moment, because the world is a scary place. All of these things should be brought together to bring some sort, and that's what I use it for. I look to see, where the hell is that moon today? And then I go, just knowing where the moon is, just knowing that sometimes I have a reaction to that moon. When, like the manifestation course, I wanted to say this. You automatically are teaching that you are allowed in this life to create anything you want. Sometimes it's going to happen, sometimes it isn't. But the gift really inside of that is that never let out here define our love. So that they attempt this manifestation, you get to play with it, the journey, and maybe it comes in a different form. But it's all about, did they love, did you notice that there was a place where they loved and got excited about their life a little bit more than they normally would? So the underlying gift that comes from your class is a recognition that these people are reaching because they want more. So I use it as a tool. And like I said, I really do love that we use tools to remind us of our never having to be afraid, and to bring us closer to something that's sort of just in that moment. We're just passing through. Life always wants to bring us some fear. So if we have anything in front of us that takes a minute that says, wait a minute, you're okay. Then it allows you to walk into a group of 300 people and do a speech that I can do it. Like I said last week at my show, I can do it. I never spoke to a group before. But because I believe that I just passing through, I want this experience to make sure I'm intact when it's over, and then I pat myself on the back. And so I went and broke the bar and eat in my hotel room. I ate everything that was in sight because I dieted for 4 months. But anyway,
yeah, I get it.
I know you do get it. It's really fun. Thank you. I know we're getting close. I'm going to stop my South-Coded Gemini. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for being our special guest today. And thank you for everyone in the comment section. I promise I will, after this, go back and answer all of your questions. So stick around for that. And if you're interested in listening to Sacred Grace, I do upload the shows to 12radio.com, but I also have a YouTube page where I'll be uploading the shows to, and hopefully doing live video shows soon. That's called Psychic Grace as well. So thank you, Mark, so much.
About your movie, I watched it twice. I watched it today on the big screen. It is so much fun. I hope everybody rents it from Amazon just to send you a little bit of love, because it's I can't imagine that as a Virgo you actually did that. It just blows my mind. You are fully I was going to say the word naked, and I didn't want people to think of the wrong other naked. You are fully there and fully present and fully exposed of who you are. And it's very, very sweet. I'm very proud of you for that. And congratulations. It's a Psychic, A Gift of Grace at Amazon Prime. It's really so fun to know that she did this, and it's powerful. Thank you, Gracie. Okay, I'll shut up.
You were so sweet. You were so sweet. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for One to Listen. Thank you for One to Radio and being so brave. We love you so much, and thank you for being on my show.
Back at you, honey. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
This is 1-2 Radio, where being of service is an art form.